businesses. Councils must therefore learn to cut costs in the same way that companies have to. And that's why I stress that if those who work in public authorities take for themselves large pay increases, they leave less to be spent on equipment and new buildings. And that, in turn, deprives the private sector of the orders it needs, especially some of those industries in the hard-pressed regions. So those in the public sector have a duty to those in the private sector not to take out so much in pay that they cause others unemployment. Yeah. And that's why we point out that every time high-wage settlements in nationalised monopolies lead to higher charges for telephones, electricity, coal and water, they can drive companies out of business and cost other people their jobs. If spending money like water was the answer to our country's problems, we would have no problems now. Because if ever a nation has spent and spent again, ours has. And today that dream is over. All that money has got us nowhere, but it still has to come from somewhere. And those who urge us to relax the squeeze, to spend yet more money indiscriminately in the belief that will help the unemployed and the small businessman, are not being kind or compassionate or caring. They're not the friends of the unemployed or the small business. They are asking us to do again the very thing that caused the problems in the first place. Now, we've made these points repeatedly. Indeed, Mr. Chairman, I am accused of lecturing or preaching about them. I suppose it's a critic's way of saying, well, we know it's true, but we've got to carpet something. I don't care about that, but I do care about the future of free enterprise, the jobs and exports it provides, and the independence it brings to our people. Independence? Yes, but let us be clear what we mean by that. Independence doesn't mean contracting out of all relationships with others. A nation can be free, but it won't stay free for long if it has no friends and no alliances. Above all, it won't stay free if it can't pay its own way in the world. And by the same token, an individual needs to be part of a community and to feel that he is part of it. There's more to this than the chance to earn a living for himself and his family, essential though that is. Of course, our vision and our aims go far beyond the complex arguments of economics. But unless we get the economy right, we shall deny our people the opportunity to share that vision and to see beyond the narrow horizons of economic necessity. Without a healthy economy, we can't have a healthy society. And without a healthy society, the economy won't stay healthy for long. Mr. Chairman, but it isn't the state that creates a healthy society. For when the state grows too powerful, people feel that they count for less and less. The state drains society not only of its wealth, but of initiative, of energy, the will to improve and innovate, as well as to preserve what is best. But our aim is to let people feel that they count for more and more. If we can't trust the deepest instincts of our people, we shouldn't be in politics at all. And Mr. Chairman, some aspects of our present society really do offend those instincts. Decent people do want to do a proper job at work, not to be restrained or intimidated from giving value for money. They believe that honesty should be respected, not derided. They see crime and violence as a threat not just to society, but to their own orderly way of life. They want to be allowed to bring up their children in these beliefs, without the fear that their efforts will be daily frustrated in the name of progress or free expression. Indeed, that's what family life is all about. There isn't a generation gap in a happy and united family. People yearn to be able to rely on some generally accepted standards. Without them, you haven't got a society at all. You have purposeless anarchy. And a healthy society isn't created by its institutions either. Great schools and universities don't make a great nation any more than great armies do, because only a great nation can create and involve great institutions of learning, of healing, of scientific advance. And a great nation is the voluntary creation of its people. A people composed of men and women whose pride in themselves is founded on the knowledge of what they can give to a community, of which they in turn can be proud. If our people feel that they are part of a great nation, and they're prepared to will the means to keep it great, then a great nation we shall be and shall remain. So, Mr. Chairman, what could stop us from achieving this? What then stands in our way? The prospect of another winter of discontent? I suppose it might. But I prefer to believe that certain lessons have been learned from experience, that we're coming slowly, painfully, to an autumn of understanding, and I hope it will be followed by a winter of common sense. If it isn't, we shall not be diverted from our course. To those waiting with bated breath for that favourite media catchphrase, the U-turn, I have only one thing to say. U-turn if you want to. The ladies not for turning. And I say that not only to you, but to our friends overseas as well, and also to those who are not our friends. In foreign affairs, we've pursued our national interest robustly while remaining alive to the needs and interests of others. We have acted where our predecessors dithered. And here may I pay tribute to Lord Carrington. When I think of our much-travelled Foreign Secretary, I'm reminded of the advertisement, you know the one I mean, about the pier that refreshes those foreign parts that other piers can't reach. It seems I got that right. Long before we came into office, and therefore long before the invasion of Afghanistan, I was pointing to the threat from the East. I was accused of scaremongering, but events have more than justified my words. Soviet Marxism is ideologically, politically, and morally bankrupt. But militarily, the Soviet Union is a powerful and growing threat. Yet it was Mr. Kosygin who said, "No peace-loving country, no person of integrity should remain indifferent when an aggressor holds human life and world opinion in insolent contempt." We agree. The British government is not indifferent to the occupation of Afghanistan. We will not allow it to be forgotten. For unless and until the Soviet troops are withdrawn, other nations are bound to wonder which of them may be next. Of course, there are those who say that by speaking out, we are complicating East-West relations, that we are endangering détente. But the real danger would lie in keeping silent. Détente is indivisible, and it is a two-way process. The Soviet Union can't conduct wars by proxy in Southeast Asia and in Africa, foment trouble in the Middle East and the Caribbean, invade neighboring countries, and still expect to conduct business as usual. Unless détente is pursued by both sides, it can be pursued by neither, and it's a delusion to suppose otherwise. And that's the message that we shall be delivering loud and clear at the meetings of the European Security Conference in Madrid in the weeks immediately ahead. But we shall also be reminding the other participants in Madrid that the Helsinki Accord was supposed to promote the freer movement of people and ideas. The Soviet government's response so far has been a campaign of repression worse than any since Stalin's day. It had been hoped that Helsinki would open gates across Europe. In fact, the guards today are better armed and the walls are no lower. But behind those walls, the human spirit is unvanquished. And the workers of Poland, in their millions, have signalled their determination to participate in the shaping of their destiny. We salute them. Marxists claim that the capitalist system is in crisis. The Polish workers have shown that it's the communist system that is in crisis. The Polish people should be left to work out their own future without external interference. Mr. Chairman, at every party conference and every November in Parliament, we used to face difficult decisions over Rhodesia and over sanctions, but no longer. Since we last met, the success at Lancaster House and thereafter in Salisbury, a success won in the face of all the odds, a success that has created new respect for Britain. It's given fresh hope to those grappling with the terrible problems of Southern Africa. It's given the Commonwealth new strength and unity. And now it's for the new nation, Zimbabwe, to build her own future with the support of all those who believe that democracy has a place in Africa, and we wish her well. We showed over Rhodesia that the hallmarks of Tory policy are, as they always have been, realism and resolve. Not for us the disastrous fantasies of unilateral disarmament, of withdrawal from NATO, of abandoning Northern Ireland. The irresponsibility of the left on defence increases as the dangers which we face loom larger. And we, for our part, under Francis Pym's brilliant leadership, have chosen a defence policy which potential foes will respect. We are acquiring, with the cooperation of the United States government, the Trident missile system. This will ensure the credibility of our strategic deterrent until the end of the century and beyond. And it was very important for the reputation of Britain abroad that we should keep our independent nuclear deterrent, as well as for our citizens here. We've agreed to the stationing of cruise missiles in this country. The unilateralists object, but the recent willingness of the Soviet government to open a new round of arms control negotiations shows, in fact, the wisdom of our firmness. We intend to maintain and, where possible, to improve our conventional forces so as to pull our weight in the alliance. We've no wish to seek a free ride at the expense of our allies. We'll play our full part. In Europe, we've shown that it is possible to combine a vigorous defence of our own interests with a deep commitment to the idea and to the ideals of the community. Mr. Chairman, the last government was well aware that Britain's budget contribution was grossly unfair. They failed to do anything about it. We negotiated a satisfactory arrangement which will give us and our partners time to tackle the underlying issues. We've resolved the difficulties of New Zealand's lamb trade with the community in a way which protects the interests of the farmers in New Zealand while giving our own farmers and our own housewives an excellent deal, and Peter Walker deserves to be congratulated on his success. Now he's two-thirds on his way to success in making important progress towards agreement on a common fisheries policy. That's very important for our people too. There are many, many people whose livelihoods depend on it. Now, we face many other problems in the community, but I'm confident that they too will yield to the firm yet fair approach which has already proved so much more effective than the previous government's 5 years of procrastination. With each day, it becomes clearer that in the wider world we face darkening horizons, and the war between Iran and Iraq is the latest symptom of a deeper malady. Europe and North America are centres of stability in an increasingly anxious world. The community and the alliance are the guarantee to other countries that democracy and freedom of choice are still possible. They stand for order and the rule of law in an age when disorder and lawlessness are ever more widespread. The British government intends to stand by both these great institutions, the community and NATO. We will not betray them. The restoration of Britain's place in the world and of the West's confidence in its own destiny are two aspects of the same process. No doubt there'll be unexpected twists in the road, but with wisdom and resolution, we can reach our goal. I believe we'll show the wisdom, and you may be certain that we'll show the resolution. Mr. Chairman, in his warm-hearted and generous speech, Peter Thornycroft said that when people are called upon to lead great nations, they must look into the hearts and minds of the people whom they seek to govern. I would add that those who seek to govern must in turn be willing to allow their hearts and minds to lie open to the people. This afternoon, I've tried to set before you some of my most deeply held convictions and beliefs. This party which I'm privileged to serve and this government which I am proud to lead are engaged in the massive task of restoring confidence and stability to our people. I've always known that task was vital. Since last week, it has become even more vital than ever. We close our conference in the aftermath of that sinister utopia unveiled at Blackpool. Let Labour's Orwellian nightmare of the left be the spur for us to dedicate with a new urgency our every ounce of energy and moral strength to rebuild the fortunes of this free nation. If we were to fail, that freedom could be imperiled. So let us resist the blandishments of the faint hearts. Let us ignore the howls and threats of the extremists. Let us stand together and do our duty, and we shall not fail.